Okay, so this is what I ordered from AliExpress for about 100 bucks. 6 SBR10 supported linear guides and double the number 12 bearings SBR10 UU, and all in all it was about 100 bucks. Doesn't matter currently of euro or US dollars. It's about the same. Well, you get what you pay for, but still I'm a little bit disappointed. I mean, yeah, I was thinking about throwing it into the scrap metal bin. Yeah, where to start? So let's take a quick look at the I don't even want to call it finish, where they cut the guide rods and the supports to length. I mean, yeah, I have no idea what they used. Maybe some very old rusty hacksaw. I don't know, really. But yeah, it's bad. I mean, also the guide rods. I mean, obviously, whatever tool they used, you see that big bar here, and yeah, it's awful. And yeah, I already measured how long they are. So this is supposed to be 300 millimeters, and I just measured, and I was, yeah, I was very generous. Only the guide rod, and it came out to 296 millimeters. And yeah, it's not nice. And it repeats for the rest. So consistent, these came out on 296. These came out on, these should be 350, came out on 355, 54, excuse me. Yeah. And the 200 millimeters were 2 millimeters too short, 189. Yeah. And as I said, I'm just talking about the guide rods. I'm not talking about the measurements of the supports. Yeah, forget about that. The second thing I noticed was how the bearings slide on the stuff. I mean, you hear them working, but it's, as soon as you put pressure on it, very rough, and as soon as you put pressure on it, you stop hearing the bearings roll. And yeah, it has nothing to do with the adjustment. I mean, I can open that up completely. So it's now really a, it should be a loose fit, but it's not. And it's getting even worse. So giving the bearing more play makes it worse. And the reason for that, you can see quite easily if you look here. You see these scratch marks. These scratch marks are basically from the stamped metal parts that hold the bearing in. And yeah, you should be able to see it. Yeah, they're not really touching the bearing. They far, far, or too far in, and basically scratching on the support structure. So yeah, I thought that's bullshit. And you cannot really adjust them because, let me take that apart real quick. Yeah, working in front of the camera is never easy. Yeah, because they are stamped. And here's a recess. You cannot really push them further out. As soon as you screw it down, you see how far I could push them, but as soon as you put the screws back in, it's simply pushed back into the space that should be occupied by the support of the guide rod. So yeah, that's a little problem. Also, and this is special for the SBR10, and I think I should mention that. And that's totally my fault of not doing proper research before ordering. I mean, it's not mentioned on the Chinese sites, but basically even after the fact sorry, my parts. Even after the fact, I didn't really find any information about that on the internet. So these are the bearings. And don't get me wrong, the bearings itself are, even with pressure on them, they are nice. They are nice. There's nothing wrong with the bearings itself. But you see, where am I? Here. There are, in the SBR10, only 3 rows of balls. Or, yeah, 1, 2, 3. And especially in this part here, there are no rolls at all, no bolts at all. So we have only 3 rows of bolts. What that means, and as far as I know, I haven't checked it yet in real life, the SBR 12 and upwards, they have 4 rows of bolts. So basically, if you apply down pressure, you have basically the little off-center top row and that side row giving you support. If you have sidewards pressure from one side, yeah, from here, this row will give you some support, and the slightly off-center top row. If you have pressure from the other side, from here, then basically only, I mean, this is on the other half, though basically you have only one row of balls giving you support. And that row of balls is off the center on the top. So in result, if you get sideward pressure, and you can see it, the bearing will be pushed out to the top. That's something you have to bear in mind when constructing things. Also, I see these bearings often used, or the type of bearings, bigger ones, SBR16, SBR20 and upwards in CNC machines. And the constructions also lead to upwards force on the bearing. And you see, with just these 3 rows, there's only one single row of balls here, giving you a little bit of support if you have a force that is actually trying to pull off your bearing block from the guide rod. And at the same time, it will push the bearing to the side. So yeah, I probably make a little bit more theoretical video about the loads on these bearings and what they can really take. But back to my problem. So yeah, that was that little guy. So as a stopgap measure, I basically drilled out the holes, deburred them, and then fixed them, put them in back with some washers to hold them down. There's not really much force exerted on the stamped metal pieces here, so that's okay. And this one is now, even with a lot of pressure, you hear the balls. And also, what should be, it can wiggle left to right. You can see this. Put it to the front. It can rotate just a few degrees, but there is empty space here. Yeah. While if you take one that's not so good, you don't have much wiggle room here. Or basically, these parts are riding on the support. Yeah, so that's not too much work. Not too much work to make them work at all. But then I stumbled about the next little problem. And that is the following. I mean, I was wondering, or after all that mess, with the measurements, I thought, okay, just to be thorough, because before doing anything stupid, let's take the height. And you see the height is something about 26.123, 26.3 2.3 millimeters. The guide rod is, of course, 10 millimeters. They got that right. But yeah, so 26.3 minus the 5 millimeters, the radius of the guide rod, is 21.3. And here's the caveat. You see, we are talking basically about, yeah, the printout is not too good, about that measurement here, h, which gives you the height from the base of your support structure to the center of your guide rod. And that should be for SBR10 18 millimeters. These are original Chinese data sheets, 18 millimeters. And we have 21.3 millimeters. That is, this is bullshit. I mean, I have a CAD drawing of what I actually want to do with this stuff, but if the axis from the base is off basically 2.3 millimeters, I can forget about it. I would have to redo the whole construction, and there are two things here. First, I learned by looking at it that the SBR10 UU only have 3 rows of balls, linear bearings itself, and yeah, that's a bit a drawback if you want to exert force on the bearing also from the sides, and also force pulling on it. So maybe I go to, for my real project, to SBR12. In the meanwhile, I can, well, disassemble these, I had in here. I could think about of milling these supports to size. Yeah, I considering that, milling them to size. So I got my H of 18 millimeters. By the way, just as a rough measurement, and this is not round. Yeah, it doesn't have to be round, but this is about 6 millimeters, roughly. And that measurement is also the specifications of the SBR10. That's this little guy here, which is called, I can't read it here, but it's basically, yeah, that's H1. You can't read it. I can't read it either, H1, but I know it's H1, and it says it should be 4.7. Yeah, right here, the distance at the edges where the guide rod is touching the support. It should be 4.7 6.7. And what did we measure? Roughly 6. So there's actually nothing wrong with the bearings. You know, the problem where I tried to get the stuff farther out because it's touching the support. It's all about the guide rods and their support, which is simply, yeah, scrap metal. So milling it down, or to size myself, or just putting it into the scrap metal bin. It's all the same. And SBR10 stuff you cannot get here. You cannot get it from a German dealer or European dealer. You have to go to the Chinese or to eBay, which will deliver from China or somewhere around that part of the world. SBR12 you can get from German sources or European sources, not SBR10. So, and yeah, as I said, on a technical note, SBR10s with only 3 rows of bolts, they have their limitations. But maybe, yeah, I will make a second video on that with a little bit more of, yeah, information and theory, static calculations, that sort of stuff. We'll see. Well, I hope that was gave you some hints of what not to do, and yeah, we'll see how I feel about making another clip. Thanks and goodbye.